everyone, and welcome back. And I guess I should say happy 4th of July, since this is a Saturday, although I'm not recording it on Saturday. But I don't know what your 4th of July is going to be like, but ours will be pretty quiet. All the cities have canceled their fireworks, just to avoid crowds, and we'll probably sit on the front yard or somewhere in the backyard and see if we can catch any of the neighbors shooting off theirs. But it'll be pretty tame for us. So hopefully everyone has a safe and fun 4th of July, no matter what you're doing. But today, I just wanted to do a quick video on something I get asked a lot by people who follow me on Instagram and friends and family. And the question I always get is, what colored pencils should a beginner colorist use? Now, not an experienced one, but a beginner. So you've bought your first coloring book, and now you're like, okay, where do I go from here? I have pulled out a couple sets that I think are good for beginners, and I'll kind of go over the pros and cons of each. I'm not going to do like a review or anything. Most of these I've already reviewed on my channel, so you could just kind of search through my videos. I'll even put some links or cards maybe, and that way you can kind of go and find the reviews. But I did want to kind of go over the different types out there, and then I will give you my pick, meaning the one I highly recommend. But again, I don't want you to think because I recommend it that you have to go get it, or I'm saying it's superior. I will explain why it is my preferred pick when we get there, and then you decide what is best for you. So let's get this started. I think the first set we'll go over, I have them all out here, so I'm going to move a bunch off to the side. All right. So the first one that we are going to discuss is Castle Arts. And like I said, I've already reviewed these on my channel, so I'm not going to go through and do a review or anything like that. But the Castle Arts are definitely something a lot of beginners use. You can get them in 72 and 120, and they come with a ton of colors. So here is the swatch chart of all 120. And you've got a great range of colors here, tons of yellows, tons of orange, red, a ton of pinks and purples. So they give you plenty of each color category, which is great, because if you're new to coloring, you aren't quite ready to blend pencils with different, like going between a really light and really dark. You want a lot of colors that are close enough while you kind of pick up your style, but also just your skills in general with blending. So that is one reason I recommend these, because they have a bunch that are super close, so you can make tons of gradients, and you're not sitting there kind of lost or just feeling like you can't blend anything out and get some dimension. But I mean, these are soft touch, they are wax based, they're pretty good considering the price. You won't spend more than $60 to get the smaller set, and I think this one's like $59.99. I have to double check. Like I said, I'm not doing a full review, so that's why I'm not really going over pricing. But so yeah, the Castle Arts pros here, you got tons of colors, tons of close colors, so you can practice making gradients, plenty of variety. So if your first book is a Johanna Basford, then you've got pinks and greens to do all the flowers. If your first book is, say, Lost Ocean, look at all the blues you've got. Even a Hannah Carlson book, if that's your first one, you have plenty to work with to make jewels here. You have tons for skin tones, see all these here. So this is an all-around good set. The color variety is great. They are wax-based, so they're pretty easy to blend compared to an oil-based. And I will not feature any oil-based in this because I don't recommend those for beginners. So oil-based take a lot of layering, and you really have to find your coloring, preference there. But these sharpen well, they hold their point, and they're cheap. So if you're getting into coloring and you're not quite sure if you're ready to take the plunge, there you go. There's a lot more people using these, so you might be able to even find some YouTube videos and color combinations. But that kind of brings me to the cons. They're not very popular. They're growing in popularity, but you're not going to find a lot of color alongs on YouTube or color combinations on Instagram and Pinterest to kind of get you started. And the other huge drawback here is they don't have open stock. So if you run through one of these colors, you need to either buy the 72 set if it's in there, or purchase this huge 120 set. And that actually becomes really expensive, especially if you end up using the same colors and don't use others. You're going to have to buy full sets to replace it, and you'll end up spending quite a bit. These also, while smooth, don't blend as well as some of the more expensive ones, so they do require more layering and patience, and they can be a little frustrating for a beginner colorist. But because they're so cheap, you won't cringe every time you sharpen them, and they are easy enough to blend that you'll eventually kind of get the hang of it and find your style. But if you're the type that likes to press hard and layer, these will be really dusty, and you'll have some scratchy ones excuse me, in there just because they aren't super high quality. But it's still an option, and something to think about. Let me move those off to the side. Alright, next we are going to dive in. These are in a case, but these are the Artezas. Now, the Arteza ones are also, they have a 72 and then a 120, and these ones are really thick, and they have the color dipped ends. They almost look like a polychromos, just in the way they're styled. They have super cute names. They're wax based. They're very thick also, so you have a pretty thick core, and they have plenty of colors as well. So here's the colors that come with the 120 set, and as you can see, again, you have a good range of colors here. You've got the oranges, reds, tons of browns, pinks and purples also, with tons of blues and greens. So these would work good in a lot of books as well. And the only one thing I would say is you don't have a ton of yellow, but most people don't find themselves craving yellow. I'm one of those people that want just loads of yellows, and then I never even use them. I don't know why. I barely get through them. But so you do have the color range, so that is good. These are very affordable if you're comparing them to artist grade. And the other thing is, these are a lot creamier than Castle Arts. They're a lot smoother. They blend very well together. Almost, and I say almost because I don't want to say exactly, almost like a Prismacolor. So they are very buttery. They work great for gradients, which is good because unlike the Castle Art, which is also 120, I do feel like the colors don't always have like when you look at them, there's not a ton of color combinations that just pop out at you at first. So it's great that these ones really smush together well, similar to Prismacolors, so that you don't have to worry as much on finding, several colors really close together to create your gradient as you're starting out. And Arteza are becoming pretty popular now, so you will find a bunch of color combinations on Instagram and Pinterest. There's even a lot of YouTubers that only use Arteza. So that is a positive. They are growing. You'll find some color combos out there that people have shared. And then, you know, they are a lot better quality than the Castle Arts. So what is the problem with these? Well, again, they're not open stock. So even though these are really close to Prismacolor, they don't have an open stock. So if I run through my raw sienna here, I have to buy it in one of the other variety tins and have a whole bunch of other extra pencils. So again, I will end up spending more to replace these than I would with an artist grade pencil, just because they're not open stock. But that said, I do love the way these look. I have a video on here also of a flower I did with Arteza, and I honestly need to play around with them even more, but I just keep getting sidetracked with other pencils. But Arteza is another good one to try out. Just make sure you're doing the Arteza Expert colored pencils and not the watercolor pencils. The tins looks very similar, so read the description on Amazon and don't go by the picture. So that's another one that's great for beginner colorists. All right, and next we have Prismacolor. So Prismacolor is a much beefier set here. You got 150 pencils. Mine, this is actually my spare box. I wait for them to go on sale on Amazon. I guess I wouldn't really call it a sale because it's not, the prices on Amazon just fluctuate. And Prismacolor right now with COVID, I saw them at like $220 for a 150 count box. Do not pay that. Never. When manufacturing picks up and, you know, they're allowed to operate at full speed, things will go back down in price, because you should never spend $200 for a set of 150 Prismacolors. I mean, I spent $220 on Luminance, which are way better pencils. So right now, not the best time to get these. However, there are bundles, which is funny because if you were to go search for this 150 count on Amazon, it's like 200 something right now. But if you look for the bundle, it's 150 count with a sharpener. Other times it comes with blender sticks and a marker. And those ones are way cheaper. They're like low 100s. So look for the bundles. They tend to always be cheaper than just buying this. I don't know why. And if any of you watching this know why, please let me know, because it drives me bonkers. It's like a mystery on Amazon that I've been trying to figure out. But they do come in multiple sizes. They have a 12, I think they have a 24, and then I know they have a 40, I know they have a 72, because 72 was the first one I ever started with. They even have, and then they have the 150. I think there's a 120. But Prismacolor, you know, if you're going to buy them, you don't have to buy this 150 count. You can get smaller ones. But the reason I ended up eventually going to the 150 was I just wanted all the extra grays that come in this set. The 120, or definitely not the 72, but they're lacking all the grays that make Prismacolor awesome. They have loads of grays. They have all these warm grays, cool grays, French grays, and you end up using them a lot more than you think you're going to use them. So the color ranges are also great. You have plenty of neutral colors, yellows, orange, red, pinks and purples, again, blues and greens, tons of browns. You know, you can use these in just about any coloring book out there and you're going to be just fine. You know, whether it's nature, it's skin tone, hair, whatever, you're going to be able to handle it with these ones. So the other thing is, if you don't want the 150 set, you can buy any size set, but if you run out of a single color, you do not have to go buy the set. These are open stock. I have this little guy here. This is as far as he could make it before the sharpener. I couldn't get it in the sharpener anymore. But I'm going to be reordering this, and there's numerous websites where you can order open stock Prismacolor, and also like your local Michaels, Joann's, and Hobby Lobby usually have these open stock as well. The only thing is your local store may not have the whole 150. Like my Michaels does not, nor Joann's. The Hobby Lobby near me has the most, but still they don't have the full 150. So I've noticed a lot with the grays, especially French grays, I do have to order those online, and you get a discount, like from Blick Arts. If you order 5 or more of the same color, they give you a discount. So I just wait till I'm low, and then I buy them in abundance. Like I have a bunch that I had ordered here in this jar, and then like I said, I always wait for this 150 set to go down between 80 and 90, and I snag the 150 set, and then I have the whole set of spares. And the reason I do that is because it ends up cheaper to replace all these, obviously, because these are still anywhere from $1.50 to over $2 a pencil, depending on where you go. But I use every single Prismacolor except the neons and these metallics, which I just give to my daughter, and she's happy. She's got tons. So I can justify rebuying this, but when I run out of a single color, you know, like this one, I can just go buy more of that same single color, and it's no big deal. So I don't have to always repurchase this. But because I go through so many Prismacolors, it is definitely an easier way to stock up. So that is the pros of these. Another pro is these are so popular and have been around for so long that just about every YouTuber, or color tubist I should say, out there has a tutorial of some sort, a beginner guide, color combinations for Prismacolors. I mean, Pinterest is loaded with Prismacolor color combinations, you know, Instagram too. So if you're new and you're looking at this 150 set and you just are overwhelmed by the colors, you will have somewhere online where you can easily find a color combination. And just about every single coloring book out there that's popular, someone has colored a page and shared their colors. So you have someone that you could kind of use as a guide or copy and just kind of get used to using them. And the other thing is they are so creamy and so easy to work with. I mean, they smush together flawlessly. There's just, I don't know how else to say it. Whether you're heavy-handed or soft-handed and you like a lot of layers, these pencils can do both. You can push hard and do it super quick and easy. You can even color a part here and a part here and use one of these colorless blenders to smear the color together, and it gives the look of something shiny. So these are super versatile and they're just easy to work with. So what's the con? They are expensive. You know, even if I don't know if you'll ever find this 150 for 80 or 90. The lowest it might go, you know, as long as it's on the low hundreds, you're good. That's a good price. But they still are very expensive when you compare them to Arteza, which were $80. I got that 120 count set for $80. Castle Arts, you know, definitely not even close to $80 for their 120 pencils. And then these, you know, if you can snag them super cheap in the 80s and 90s, awesome. But, you know, on average, I would say probably you'll most of the time find these around 120 to 150. So that is a pretty hefty price tag, but you don't have to buy this huge one. In fact, I recommend their smaller one, maybe like the 72. And yeah, you'll be missing out on all these colors, but then you can see if you like them. But even better, you could just go to your local craft store, have a list of color combinations that you've seen online, and just go buy those individual pencils, play around with them, and see if you like them. You don't even have to buy a set. So while they are pricey, you can kind of get around that. All right, now the last set of colored pencils is the Black Widow series. They are obnoxious and don't actually come in a 96 set. You have to buy 5 sets to make this. So that part is a drawback. But overall, they're incredibly cheap. They're 20 count tins, which are these. They come in themed tins. I did do a review on these a couple weeks ago, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But they come in 3 sets of 24, which have a lot of these colors in here. And then these are only $16.99, so you can do the math yourself there. That's pretty cheap for pencils. And then the last 24 actually come in 2 sets of 12, and they're both for skin tones, light and dark, and they're $10.99 each on Amazon. So you do have to buy all of those to build your 96 count. However, these are very soft, very easy to work with. If I had to compare them, I would say they're not as soft as Arteza, so they're a little harder, but definitely softer than Castle Arts, and obviously not as soft as Prismacolor because that is the softest. But these blend together so well. I loved using them, and they have fun, quirky names, and it's just a fun brand to work with. But the drawback to these is the color range. You don't get a ton of colors from these. They're very cheap, great place to start, but they're really lacking. Like, your grays are just, well, there they are. You have some purples and pinks and some up here too, but you know, even with these greens, it's hard to get really great combos. I mean, there's some out there, but it's not as much of a range as you would have with Castle Art, even the Arteza, and obviously the Prismacolor. And the biggest reason for that is just you're limited to 96 pencils. If they had 120 or 150 Black Widows, I guarantee they would fill in all these gaps. So it's really just the pencil count. And then the other bummer is if you were to only purchase a single tin, you are not going to have a huge range of colors. You will have, so say you bought this single 24 set of the Cobra. You would have these colors here. You've got tons of the yellows in the Cobra set, a lot of the pinks and reds too, and some, you know, one blue, well, technically 2, that's kind of like a violet-y blue, but that is it for this set. So as you can see, you're pretty limited on colors if you only buy 1 tin. So that's kind of a drawback. I would say if you're a beginner colorist, you could just buy a 24 set first, see if you like it. Then purchase more tins and add to your collection. That way you can make all these color combinations. But 1 tin is going to short you on color options. And then also, Black Widow are not open stock. So if I run out of like my burnt orange, I have to figure out which tin it comes from and buy that whole tin. But since they're broken up into so many small tins, the most I'll ever pay is $16.99. Sure, I'll get stuck with 24 or 12 pencils, depending on which set it's in. but I didn't pay that much to replace it. However, if I don't use the other colors in that 24 set tin, then I'm spending $16.99 every time I run out of a pencil. That gets expensive. But I do love the Black Widow pencils regardless, and real quick I will show you. One of the reasons why is they are black, like black wood. It's just, I don't know, for some reason it just makes you want to use them because they're so unique. They have cool black shavings, they have awesome names, and they are a smooth, easy to blend pencil, but they're just not as smooth as Arteza. Regardless, it's a good place to start. So, we've gone through my 4 picks for, the best colored pencils for beginning colorists. What is the order here? So I would say in 4th place would be the Castle Arts. This would be in 4th place. I would not say this would be my first choice if someone asked me for my honest opinion, just because there is not enough out there to work with these. You're new to coloring, you need information out there, you want to know color combinations, you want tutorials. You're just not going to find enough yet. This could change in a couple months. There's tons of new colors coming out because we're all bored and stuck at home and coloring and making YouTube videos to bide our time. So you never know. But the other reason is they're just not as blendable as some of the other ones. So it depends on your style. If you're okay with tons of layers and you don't want your colors to always smush together, then you might be fine with this. But I put these personally in 4th place. In 3rd place, I would say would be the Black Widows, just because they are very soft, they're fun to work with, they are cheap. But again, if you were to search for people coloring with Black Widow, color combinations, tutorials, there are not a lot out there at all. It's just not a popular pencil, which is kind of tragic because they're fun. And I'm going to try and make some tutorials because I feel like these don't get as much love as they should. But again, they're just not as soft, so they definitely have their drawbacks. Alright, so 2nd place, Arteza. These are great pencils. I love to work with them. Like I said, I have a blue flower on here that you can see, and there's a lot more colorists using these. Even professional artists will share like how to draw things with them. There's plenty of combos out there and more popping up because people really do consider these their alternative to an artist's grade, and they're great to work with. They're very smooth, they blend together well, but again, we don't have open stock here, so you do have to buy the sets of them if you want to replace them. So if you've kept count, obviously my 1st place one would be Prismacolor. And you're thinking, wow, I'm a beginner colorist and you're telling me to spend over $100 on a set of pencils. But like I said, you don't have to. Instead, I suggest you go find a couple of color alongs on YouTube, write down the colors, go get the book, and go buy the open stock pencils and follow along. The reason I chose Prismacolor as the beginner pencil is my first pencil was Marco Raffine, which are great pencils, to be honest, but once I moved over to Prismacolor, that is where my skills blossomed. I had so many resources available to help me learn how to color. Tons of YouTube videos and tutorials because everyone uses Prismacolors, not just colorists. Professional artists use them. So you have so many videos dating back to 7 years. Literally, I found a grass tutorial the other day that was 7 years old using Prismacolors, and it was awesome. because then I was like, oh my gosh, I have a new grass combo. So you have thousands of videos, and I'm not exaggerating. And on Pinterest, you have hundreds of color combinations, completed pictures, beginner tutorials. There are artists on Instagram and colorists on Instagram constantly sharing tips and color combinations. I mean, my color combination book is this thick, full of pages of Prismacolor combos. No other brand out there have I found that much in resources. And you can buy these open stock. I run out of lavender, Hobby Lobby has me covered. I run out of my gray, Blick Arts has me covered because Hobby Lobby will not carry it for whatever reason. But they are incredibly easy to work with. And more importantly, you will be able to find a colorist on YouTube, Instagram, or Pinterest that works with your style. That's the biggest thing. My thing is I like to color dark to light. Now, there's a debate on what's right and wrong. I believe there's no such thing. I think everyone's right. But I like dark to light, and so I looked all over YouTube back when I was learning how to color and looked for the colorists that actually did dark to light, and there was tons of them. There was tons of resources on my coloring style. You might be the kind that wants to layer, do a bunch of light layers and build up the color. You will find tons of colorists out there that do that. And you have your open stock. So there's just so many resources, and it can be so much cheaper in the long run. Yes, you may invest money depending on the size of the first box if you don't go the open stock route, but it's like an investment because you will have so many resources to learn how to use them, and in the long run you will spend less on a Prismacolor set than any of these other sets because, like I said, none of these are open stock. I have to buy a full set of whichever one has that color. And one thing that really sucks is, like with Arteza and Castle Arts, their biggest sets have some of my favorite colors. So once I get through that color, I have to go and buy a 120 count set for $80 for one pencil. Whereas, yeah, maybe I spent $120 on a 150 count box, but I run out of that one pencil, I spend the most $250. And like I said, you can buy them in bulk. If there's a color you use a ton of, buy them in bulk and you're still going to spend less in the long run. So that's just my opinion on what I think is the best. I would love to hear if you have an opinion on what one you think is the best, or even more so, which pencil was your first coloring pencil. I know a lot of people start with Crayola. I started with Marco Raffine for whatever reason. But like I said, I went from that to Prismacolor, and then that was where my coloring really took off, and I started to learn color theory and combos and it's my personal coloring journey. So I would love to know which pencil was your first, which one you think is the best for a beginner colorist. Beginner, again, there's loads of pencils out there. There's the Derwent series that they have like 6 or 7 of them, luminance. Then we have the oil based, but I'm just talking the best beginner colorist pencil, preferably wax based, that you would recommend. Or if you agree that Prismacolor is the best, I'd love to hear that too. So if you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe and also hit the bell so you get a notification. I do try to post once a week. Last week was a little crazy. Our puppy is doing this lovely thing now where she wakes up in the middle of the night and then still wakes up for the day at 4 a.m. And before I knew it, it was Tuesday, and I was like, oh my gosh, I never made a video for last week. So that's why I just popped in my what I colored in June video, and here we are. But now I am back on track, crossing fingers I get some sleep. But definitely subscribe. I do try to post once a week. And then if you found this helpful, hit the little like button. That way other people searching for what the best colored pencil is when they're starting out can find this and get some help too, and kind of compare their options. But until next time, thanks for watching, and just keep coloring.